Okay, let's talk a little bit about the other game the other what I call there was, in my opinion, there were three big games last week: Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Arkansas, and Cincinnati, Notre Dame. And let's talk about Cincinnati, Notre Dame for a minute. You know, for the average Notre Dame fan, I think most of them thought the Wisconsin game was a mirage. It's like, hey, we beat Wisconsin 41-13. We're ready. We're gonna be going undefeated. But that Wisconsin game clouded over a myriad of problems that Notre Dame has offensively. And I think same thing as you said with Clemson, they're expecting their defense to cover for a lot of problems. Notre Dame's offensive line is porous at best. They can't run the football. They have a quarterback starting who's kind of a statue type quarterback. He's not very mobile, and they're struggling. But Cincinnati's a good football team. I just didn't see them as an overpowering team. I think if this was Notre Dame's team last year, I think they would have won that football game. But now Cincinnati has a win at Notre Dame on their resume, and they could become the first non-Power 5 team to make the playoff.
Yeah, and Cincinnati's been building to this. They were able to retain a lot of key players despite losing Marcus Freeman to Notre Dame as the Irish defensive coordinator, a guy who 100% is a future head coach. I know you're a former linebacker yourself and at Notre Dame. This guy is brilliant, Ralph.
Yes.
I really love what Freeman is doing defensively. But Luke Fickell is a great coach. Luke Fickell is going to be a candidate at a number of Power 5 schools at the end of this cycle. And Luke Fickell is a huge reason Cincinnati is getting ready to be a Power 5 team in and of itself.
Right.
But I do like the Bearcats' schedule to run the table.
Right.
And if they run the table with a win at Notre Dame, I can't see Cincinnati, especially in this year, not getting into the playoffs.
Would you agree with my assessment that Cincinnati, though, needs to become Notre Dame's biggest fan? Because I think if Notre Dame runs the table, doesn't that make that win at Notre Dame look even better?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, the same way that after Notre Dame beat Wisconsin and going into this past weekend, Notre Dame needed Wisconsin to beat Michigan to make that win look even better for Notre Dame. And it's still Notre Dame needs Cincinnati also to win out.
Right.
Because, again, what we just talked about, there's so much fluidity to this college football season. There's going to be a bunch of teams sitting out there with one loss trying to get that fourth playoff spot. And either Alabama or Georgia is going to have at least one loss because those two teams are on track to meet each other in the SEC championship game.
Right.
But you feel like those two teams are going to lock up two spots, barring a bunch of chaos.
Right.
And then there's going to be two other spots. I like Cincinnati for one of those spots. And then you've got a bunch of teams, whether it's if Oregon can go ahead and win back out, I think they would probably get the nod for the Pac-12. Oklahoma's not lost yet, but I just don't think Oklahoma passes the eye test, and I don't see Oklahoma going undefeated.
Right. And I think Penn State, you got to look at them. I mean, they're undefeated. If they beat Iowa this week, I think they play them this week, but if they beat Iowa, the number 3 team, and they beat Ohio State, I think they're in it. An undefeated team, they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm certainly not discounting those teams. I'm just trying. Yeah, no. I'm just looking at Penn State still got a trip to Ohio State.
Right.
It's got the trip this weekend to Iowa.
Right.
And Iowa has obviously got some difficult games still ahead of it on the schedule. And then those teams are all going to meet in a Big Ten championship game. So it's again, probably the most fun to try to project the playoffs in the 8-year history, I guess, of the playoffs.
Right.
Because there's true chaos beyond the top 2 spots.
Right.
There's probably 6 to 8 teams right now that legitimately have a shot to be those number 3 or 4 teams in the playoffs.